And good evening, everybody. Great to have you with us. Tonight, we look into the vast number of national security threats against the United States, and we'll examine why it is that the number of threats to America has risen dramatically under Joe Biden and his regime in a little over 3 years. New threats are also arising, but the Biden regime doesn't resolve those threats either. Instead, they all persist, the old, the new, and those threats are worsening. The Biden regime, it seems they never solve a problem. And in many, if not most cases, the Biden regime itself creates new threats, whether it be throwing open our southern border, inviting in millions of illegal aliens, attacking political opponents with lawfare, and their abuse of both government power and simple decency, aligning the regime with China, Ukraine, Iran, as they declare war on Israel and Jews, on Christians and science, and work to silence their critics and political opponents and destroy them if need be, if they can. This is the new era of the totalitarian Marxists, as the third term of the fundamental transformist President Barack Obama winds down, and we'll soon see if this great constitutional republic can survive. Or will we all be servants of the totalitarian Marxist state that Biden, Obama, and their lesser lights who serve them and who follow them so strongly desire? Tonight we begin with the millions of illegal aliens who are ravaging the nation, at the invitation, of course, of Joe Biden, the impaired. The Biden regime, the Marxist Dems, are turning America's largest cities into shattered, hollowed out vestiges of former glory. Pro-Hamas, Free Palestine, anti-America radicals are burning flags and shutting down once vibrant commercial and transportation hubs all across the country. Their streets, their bridges, boulevards crammed with braying bigots calling for the destruction of Israel. From California to Chicago to New York, Marxist dim, woke radicals trying to tear this nation apart in New York City. This is what the subway goers have this to look forward to. That disgusting scene of anti-Semitic scum chanting support for Iran and Yemen, both of which are openly attacking the United States and Israel. And it's not only tolerated, but celebrated by the Marxist media, who are now openly siding with the American enemies of the American people. How much longer will we tolerate them? Why are we putting up with them? Why are we tolerating them? As one eyewitness told the New York Post about the terrifying experience, quote, "That was one of the scariest things when I was able to look at them. I noticed how easily they were chanting that they wanted to kill Jews, to get rid of Jews, to destroy Israel, destroy Zionists, bring destruction to America, like it is a completely normal thing to exterminate an entire people. And yet they accused Israel of genocide." Let's take a look at the Let's Be Evil Corporation, Google, one of the most powerful companies on planet Earth, and certainly one of the wokest. This big technology Goliath conducts surveillance on the American people and tries to brainwash with Marxist propaganda whenever and wherever they can. And that leads inevitably to national suicide, a painful process that we may be witnessing right now. It may be a slower process than we might have imagined. We don't know where it is, do we? These enemies of the American people literally are angry at their employer, Google, for doing business with the tiny Jewish democratic state of Israel as it tries to fight off attempted genocide at the hands of the Islamofascist fanatics. Here they are.
Working at Google may be seen as a dream career for many, but software engineer Iman Hassim has moral disagreements with the company involving the war in Gaza. Now, she and other employees are standing up for what they believe is right, no matter the cost.
I would not like to lose my job, but I think it is impossible for me to continue coming into work every week without acknowledging and loudly condemning Project Nimbus and any support for the Israeli government.
Google, Google, you can't hide. We charge you with genocide.
Amazing. So, what is to be done with these enemies of America and Israel? Former New York State Assemblyman and founder of Americans Against Anti Semitism joins us now. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Lou. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Dob, let's start with what has been an explosion of, you could call it pro-Hamas, pro-Palestinian demonstrations and protests and all sorts of actions. But the reality is it's anti-Israel because they're not chanting from the river to the sea for the heck of it. This is an ugly, ugly moment in American history.
Lou, they're chanting death to America. They're chanting death to Israel. They carry Hezbollah flags. This is a terrorist organization. That's not debatable. That's how Republicans and Democrats believe and what, the rules are in terms of the United States government, terrorist organization. They applaud Hamas. That means applauding what happened on October 7th, the murder, the brutality, the barbarism committed against men, women, and children, the horrors. I mean, I was there just 2 days after October 7th in Kfar Aza, other places in the South.
And it's being sponsored by George Soros. It's being sponsored by billionaires, donors of the, they like to call themselves the Democrat Party. They are Marxist Dems without question. Their leadership, their policies, their initiatives, and their values. We are looking at an irresponsible donor class in this country, but we're also looking at a country now that is riven, divided so profoundly that I can't even imagine what the next 6 months are going to look like as we move toward November 5th. This is a run-up to a replication of what we witnessed in 2020, that summer of love, as the BLM, Antifa, and radical Marxists and the Democrat Party savaged our streets, a crime wave across the country, all in the name of resistance. This is ignorance at a level that I never imagined, even then, could be the case 4 years later. How about you?
Yeah, well, there's total chaos in the country. In places like New York, where Democrats run the show, things are out of control. The radicals, the liberals, the people that care about society. The problem is they only care for the victimizers. They care for the criminals. They don't care for the actual victims who are victimized by the crimes that are happening in our cities. The immigration issue, I mean, it's just beyond comprehension what is going on the borders. And as I said, the crime wave, it's just in general. Let me just say, as someone whose mother went to Auschwitz in 1944, and she lost almost all of her family the day they arrived in Auschwitz because her mother and the others went straight to the gas chambers. Let me say about people like George Soros, the damage that he is causing to this country is beyond comprehension. I mean, what is it that these people don't get? What don't they see? It's not about being Republican or Democrats. It's about destroying the greatest country on the face of the earth. The last time I checked, Lou, everybody all over the world wants to get into our country. Everybody wants to come to America and not to those other places. They're not interested in those other places. So people like Soros and others, they are literally putting nails in the coffin, God forbid, by the support that they give to DAs, to these radical, crazy, insane organizations who, by the way, They hate America. Let's get that very, very clear. America is the great Satan, Israel is the little Satan. So the
Yeah.
only way, the only solution, Lou, is a huge victory for Republicans. As you know, I was a Democratic member of the New York State Assembly for 36 years. Okay. The only answer in November is a huge victory, not only on for the presidency, but also for the House of Representatives. Could you imagine, God forbid, if the Republicans were to win the House and Omar and Tlaib and Cory Bush
Mhm.
and AOC were running the show? I mean, they'll be in charge of this country, for God's sake.
You know,
So, from my perspective, I know there are people who, who may not like everything about Donald Trump. That's okay. But there is
I've
no
got to say, Doc, why do people even begin the sentence that way? Isn't it interesting? There are people who may not like what I'm about to say about Donald Trump. There are people who may not like Donald Trump. My God, we know that there are people who hate his guts. They're afraid of him. They have been politically persecuting him for 9 years now without a
right,
peep
right.
from our nation's leaders about the constitutional republic in which we live, about due process, the Constitution of the United States. Now, everyone should understand Trump is Churchill. This is 1939. There is one man in our political system who has the guts, the courage, the stamina, the strength, the moral purpose, and the vision to lead this country. It's that, and the
And
nation will decide whether or not he is president, but he is the only man. And remember this, I
Lou, I'm
said
not.
it right now, Trump is Churchill. And I don't care what anybody says about him.
Lou, I hear what you're saying. Okay, what I'm saying is I want him to win. And as you know, the
Me too.
polls are close. And as you know, there are independents and moderate Republicans who may have question marks. I'm saying to those
Yeah,
people, it's about
yeah,
the
I
future
understand.
of our country. That's what
I
I'm saying.
understand.
So
But you know what I think,
I
Doc?
want to
I want to
win.
see.
I want to
Go ahead.
win.
I do too. But my heart tells me this, that those people who are worried about tweets, who worry about they have a few questions about his policy on this or that, those are not people who will be there on November 5th, no matter what you say or I say or anyone else says. They are committed to the left. They are Marxist Dems, and they are Marxist Dems in waiting if they're not already fully stamped as such. This is a country, we're going to have to get rid of this daffodil approach to American politics. It is a rough and tumble process. It always has been. The arena can be mean and nasty. It always has been, as you well know. And the fact is, we have to get behind President Trump, as you say, but understand also that there should be no equivocation about our support, and
Lou,
there should be
Lou,
no
Lou.
necessity. There should be no necessity to say, I know some people like him, they don't like him. You don't hear them people say, I know some people are a little concerned about his brain. A few others think that he's falling apart entirely. You don't hear that. There's always that preface, that condition precedent when too many of us talk about Donald
Lou,
Trump, who, as I said, is Churchill, as far as I'm concerned.
Lou, I want to share with you. It didn't get much
Sure.
attention. There's a leading Reform rabbi, the Stephen Weiss Synagogue in Manhattan, as
Right.
liberal as they get. He just made a speech at his synagogue on Friday. The video is there. I send it to your people. It's unbelievable. Forget about Dov Hikind and Lou Dobbs. This Reform rabbi, who is well known, highly respected, actually spoke in a very similar fashion as I am speaking, saying that people that he represents all over the country, I'm talking about Reform liberal Jews
Yep.
who will abandon the Democratic Party. To me, that is music. That's what we
Yeah,
need.
it is.
We need Jews to abandon the Democratic Party,
I
period.
agree. I agree. But you know what else we need? We also need Jews in this country, and then the leadership of American Jewry to stand up and actually explain to the American people and to American Jews just who George Soros is, what he represents, the evil that he is. And when that happens, then I'll believe that we're seeing a shift on the part of Jewish voters in this country, but not until then. Until Jewish leaders can be honest about who George Soros is. I have watched network presidents and network owners protect George Soros and do so under the guise of trying to protect him from anti-Semitic language. Mindlessness. This man has done, in my opinion, as much to hurt American Jews in this country as imaginable over the course of the past 50 years. Dob, it's great.
I'm with you. Lou, I am with you.
You're with me, but I gotta go, and so you gotta go. So here we go. Dob, come back soon. We'll continue the conversation.
Thank you, Lou. Appreciate
it. And you know what? Let's do it next week.
Lou, we gotta win. Lou, we gotta win.
We gotta win.
Period.
I said, let's do it next week. Not until I get an answer do we go. Are you going to be here next week?
Pleasure. Thank you so much. Absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks. Dob, thanks so much. Enjoyed it. We're coming right back. Stay with us. Welcome back. Democratic voters are starting to get a rude awakening after years and years of mindlessly supporting a political party that doesn't have their best interest at heart, to say the least. They're destroying them. They hate your guts, but nonetheless, you vote for them? In Denver, that city's residents are starting to see the same stupid policies unfold before their very eyes that ruined California, causing hundreds of thousands of Californians to flee. These California transplants are in places like, say, Denver, and they take with them the idiotic policies and the way they vote. By the way, those policies include defunding the police, and in this case, to make budgetary room for more illegal aliens. Denver's Marxist Dem mayor, Mike Johnson, who thinks he's pretty cool and has got a lot of stuff on the ball and has some great ideas, announced that he would defund the police, moving $8 million out of their budget to host foreign invaders. That is, to take that money to invest in illegal aliens. Think about that one. Obviously, some of these Denver taxpayers aren't pleased with that arrangement.
And you guys are responsible for our money. Don't screw it up.
The citizens of Lakewood are drowning, and you're all talking about adding more water.
The crime is going to become incredible, just like New York City.
And Denver will indeed look like New York City, and sooner than most of those people realize, because moronic voters keep putting Marxist ideologues in charge of their various cities. They don't understand those Marxist STEM office holders hate them. Literally, they want to replace you. They want to replace me, everybody. Get it? Here is more from Mayor Johnston's town hall to get a sense of the discontent and the rising anger in the Mile High City.
Denver Mayor Mike Johnston hosted a town hall at a community center in the neighborhood where folks had a chance to let him know what it's like living near here.
My niece is getting chased down the streets. Nobody cares. How many reports do we have to have for attention from anybody?
Jose Esparza was one of about 100 people at the town hall.
About drug use, violence, any of that?
A lot of it.
That drug use is just part of the problem. With no restrooms, neighbors say there's a stench of human waste and trash in the area.
And it doesn't look good either, does it? On the other side of the country, in New York City, we get something of a preview for the folks in Denver about what they can expect with Marxist Dems in power who don't know anything about what they're doing except how to destroy. And destroy they do. Hundreds and hundreds of illegal aliens lined up at City Hall, so New York's woke radicals can pander to foreign invaders, just like they're some kind of victims, these illegal aliens. If they're victims, what are they doing in the United States? They got here illegally. Why did they come? Why don't they leave? They don't have to get a visa, apparently. They can all find a better country to put up with their nonsense, don't you think? Except they can't find one. The idiocy never stops with these people who are never grateful. And one journalist, Savannah Hernandez, decided to dig deeper into just who are these people, why aren't they grateful, and what are they doing here?
All right, guys, this is Savannah Hernandez in front of City Hall in New York. And as you guys can see, I am surrounded right now by hundreds of illegal immigrants from New Guinea and also from Haiti. All right, so majority single men from Africa. Now, I want to take you guys around what this park looks like, and more importantly, what every single park in New York is starting to look like.
Hernandez confronted one of the bright New York City officials presiding over the destruction of that once great city, because he didn't think it was nice to call illegal aliens out for being illegal aliens.
Excuse me, sir, as a city employee, you said that you don't like people using the word illegal immigrant. And can I just ask why you don't like that word? Can I just ask, sir? All right, y'all, so we're with the city employee here right now, and he was extremely upset because he asked us what was going on, and we were just telling him that there's illegal immigrants here. The city of New York is going to be spending $12 billion. He's walking through this area to avoid talking to me. These are the employees of the city of New York who don't want the people to know what's going on, that there are 175,000 illegal immigrants. The city is slated to spend $12 billion on these people through 2025. He came up to us and asked, hey, what's going on? We said the illegal immigrants are here, and he said, that's not a nice word. Those are the employees of New York, by the way, my friends.
Wow. Savannah Hernandez, no one to mess with. And what a silly, cowardly excuse for a citizen of New York to be dashing through the underbrush to avoid talking with Savannah. He doesn't like the answers, and his questions, well, they didn't amount to much. So I think it's just probably just as well that he skedaddled. These are cowards who can't defend their stupid, destructive ideas, these Marxist Dems and their supporters, whenever anyone confronts them with just plain language and an honest discussion sought. Our woke universities, for example, coddle these fools, and they create these fools. They indoctrinate them, then unleash them on society. And when they get out, they call all facts disputing their ridiculous narratives disinformation. Joining us now to shed more light on New York City's decline into an illegal alien mecca is Turning Point USA's On the Scene journalist, Savannah Hernandez. You're covering a lot of interesting stories as usual, but now we find out that there are African illegal aliens descending on City Hall in New York City. Give us a sense of what that's all about.
Absolutely. So the funny thing is that we have 175,000 illegal immigrants that have made their way to New York over the past 2 years. The city of New York slated to spend up to $12 billion on these people. And now with the various migrants that are here, they're trying to essentially sanction them off into groups. And there was a hearing at City Hall yesterday about the Black migrant experience, because for some reason, everything is about race in the United States of America. So even when it comes to the illegal immigrants, we have to add on the additional Black American experience and the hardships of these people. So you had over 1,000 Haitian and African migrants in front of City Hall yesterday, and it looked like a foreign country. They were all there to plead with the city for more resources, to ask the city of New York for potential green cards, for the ability to work. Again, we are constantly told that these people are asylum seekers, that they are looking for a better life. But when you talk to them, they're simply here to work. They're simply here to take the resources of our country. Now, I also went to a city center in which a lot of these migrants are getting free hotel rooms, and up posted on the wall, you can read in 8 different languages, hey, do you want a free plane ticket? We'll send you anywhere that you want to go in the United States or around the world.
Savannah, I mean, that is amazing to me as you chronicle that event. And to think where this country is, that people who have come into this country illegally would be demanding more resources than are already being provided. And we're providing $500 billion a year in resources to those folks. This doesn't even take into account the cost of educating their children. They're going to our schools, they're going to our hospitals, they're overloading hospitals all across the country, and they are showing up to demand a recognition for their element of the rainbow. This is yeah, I can't even think of any movie or book so dystopian that it envisioned this kind of irrationality and lack of self-awareness and a sense of proportion by people who are actually should be, kissing the ground of this country, the earth of this country, to say thank you for letting us into the world's greatest constitutional republic. There is no sense of gratitude on their part at all, is there?
Absolutely not, Lou. I have been covering the border crisis for years at this point, and I've spoken to National Guardsmen at the border who initially did feel bad for these people as they were coming in. They would try to give them water, they would try to help them out, and there was such a sense of entitlement with the illegal immigrants that they just became very not cold-hearted per se to them, but they just felt like an Uber. Okay, this is a direct quote from National Guardsmen, right? They felt like an Uber for these illegal immigrants because they were told they can't enforce border policy under the Biden administration. And so they are basically told to pick up these migrants and transport them where they're supposed to go. And then, of course, once they get into this country, they know that they can have access to free housing, free food, free healthcare, free daycare, free medical care. So you as an American citizen, this past Monday was tax day. No American citizen loves that day. I know I sure don't. And why is that? Because we are paying our government, and our government is in turn taking that money and funneling it to these people. Now, I was outside again, this city center, and a Russian illegal immigrant walked out singing jovially about how he got a free ticket to Chicago. I talked to him and he was like, oh yeah, I'm going to go to Chicago for free tomorrow, and then I might go to Los Angeles after that. And I said, for free? And he said, yeah, absolutely, for free. And so these are the people that are coming in. They know they can take advantage. It's an absolute joke. And then let's not forget as well that for example, in New York, Mayor Eric Adams is cutting funding from the Department of Education for U.S. children. We have had children kicked out of schools, out of their own gymnasiums to house these illegal immigrants. It's an absolute mess, and it's a slap in the face to every single American. What's going on?
Yeah, extraordinary. And Savannah, as always, a wonderful job of reporting. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And I guess, we're quite familiar with the phrase the land of the free. We thought it applied, though, to American citizens. We didn't realize how far it would be stretched. Thanks so much, Savannah Hernandez, Turning Point, USA. And before we go to break, MyPillow is excited to announce they're having a huge spring sale, and I'm pleased to be able to tell you about it. Here are a few examples. Buy one MyPillow 2.0 and get another one absolutely free. These pillows are made with cooling technology that means the best pillow just got even better. And this is just in. 9 brand new colors are available and styles of their percale bed sheets. They're made with the finest long staple cotton, and now you can save 50% or more. That's as low as $24.98 a set. And for the first time this year, the My Slippers and sandals for as low as $25 a pair. I have My Pillows slippers. I love them. I can't. And by the way, my wife has them as well. They are great. And we love the linens that we've gotten from My Pillow. The 2.0 pillows, I got to tell you, folks, are amazing, and you've got to have them. So go to mypillow.com, use promo code Dobbs, or call 800-977-9152 to get the MyPillow 2.0, buy one, get one free, or the percale sheets for as low as $24.98, and My Slippers and sandals for as low as $25 a pair. And for a limited time, when you order $75 or more, your entire order ships absolutely free. So go to mypillow.com and please use promo code Dobbs. You'll be glad you did. Welcome back. Congress soon to consider banning Chinese social media app TikTok. TikTok, from 5 years ago when President Trump was going to ban it. Well, this is as TikTok employees have just gone whistleblower, revealing they were ordered to send U.S. user data to its Beijing-based parent company, ByteDance. That means that if you have children who use the app, China knows all about their private lives, their profile. TikTok's algorithm, by the way, accused of using that data to push young users towards self-destructive behavior. In effect, TikTok is a national security threat that uniquely affects America's youth. And it's not just Republicans now saying this. Amnesty International, a left-wing group, explaining the dangers of TikTok.
The algorithm that decides what we see is carefully crafted to fill up our feeds with the kind of videos it knows will keep our attention. And sometimes these videos can be dark, depressing, and even potentially harmful, especially to young people who may already be vulnerable.
When I watch a sad video that I could relate to, suddenly my whole For You page is sad, and I'm in sad talk. It affects how I'm feeling.
You've all seen them. They come with tags like sad TikTok or venting account. And if you stop to watch them, TikTok will show you more and more and more. And while it may keep you scrolling, it could also affect your mental and physical well-being.
Incredible. And to think, 5 years ago, President Trump was demanding that TikTok be divested, be banned from the United States. And here we are 5 years later. The Chinese have played both the House and the Senate as fools. The Democrats have lined up with ByteDance, and here we are. We know how dangerous they are. We know what they are. It's basically digital fentanyl for kids. And China is also sending us plenty of the real thing, highly lethal fentanyl. In fact, nearly all of the fentanyl that enters this country and kills more than 100,000 Americans every year is from China. A new congressional report has revealed that the communist regime is providing subsidies to, quote, companies that manufacture fentanyl, analogs, precursors, and other synthetic narcotics, so long as these companies sell them outside China. China is incentivizing the export of a drug that is slaughtering Americans by the 100,000 a year. People are worried, some of them, about a war with China. That war is underway, folks. They're poisoning us in droves. Our leaders are absolute cowards. That's just extraordinary to think that 5 years after Donald Trump called for ByteDance to be and TikTok to be thrown out of the country, and by the way, for the Mexican drug cartels who distribute the fentanyl to be led away in cuffs. Now, speaking of leadership, Representative Scott Perry, who is a great leader, joins us tonight to talk about the disastrous tenure of Speaker Mike Johnson. It is hard to think of a bigger political disappointment, who isn't a Democrat, and in recent memory, than Johnson. He's proven just as bad as his predecessor and worse, and almost as bad as the precursor, which was Paul Ryan, of course. Johnson might suffer the same fate as Kevin McCarthy, if only we are so lucky. Talks of his ouster are brewing, and Scott Perry joins us here now. Thank you very much, Congressman, for being with us. Scott Perry, I just have to ask you this first. Speaker Johnson has entered a very rare club. He is loathed by most of the conference right now, best as we can determine. What is going on in your conference and with this speaker? Give us your summation, if you would.
Well, we have what's called a supplemental coming to the floor, and that's an abomination in and of itself. That should all be stopped. So this is spending. Well, it is, Lou. I mean, we're supposed to.
I'm sorry. I laugh because this abomination is brought to you by Speaker Mike Johnson.
Right. Every Congress every year seems to do this. So we're supposed to do a budget, and then that's supposed to be followed by the spending bills, and that's the spending for the year. We don't do a budget. We don't get our spending bills done on time. If that's not bad enough, and then when we actually do one of these omnibus bills or whatever, then after that we do more spending, which is above the budget we didn't do and beyond the appropriations or the spending bills we didn't do. And that's what this is. And so this is kind of seen as one of the last trains out of the station. As you know, Mitch McConnell and the Democrats and the left in general have wanted to spend money in Ukraine. They're desperate for it. They've been desperate for it for months. And they've tried to do all kinds of things, add Israel to it to try and sweeten the deal, so to speak. They've added Taiwan to it. They've added some fake border security, so-called, to it. And they couldn't get it moved in the Senate. But unfortunately, they're not going to have to move it in the Senate because we're now going to move it in the House. And the way this has been set up is there's going to be different votes, a separate vote for, say, Israel, another separate vote for Ukraine, because the constituency for Israel funding is not the same constituency for Ukraine funding, is not the same constituency for Taiwan funding. No, by the way, we don't even mention Taiwan because that would make the Chinese mad. So we're calling the Indo-Pacific funding, but that's a whole other story. Anyhow,
wait, I'm sorry, I missed that. I didn't realize that. They changed it to just Indo-Pacific, is that it?
Indo-Pacific, because they're going to include Guam and all kinds of things so that they don't have to say Taiwan, Lou. We wouldn't want to say Taiwan because that upsets the Chinese, right? And so this bill is structured so there'll be individual votes with individual constituencies, and then when you're done, it'll all come together as one product to be sent to the Senate. And that's all designed beforehand so that everybody can say, look, I didn't vote for Ukraine. I only voted for Israel, but it passed anyhow. How could I help that? Or I didn't vote for Israel. I only wanted to vote for Ukraine. Or I only wanted to vote for Taiwan, but I had to vote for the Indo-Pacific. It's all for cover for, quite honestly, left-leaning Republicans and completely leftist Democrats. It's provided as cover. And you know what's not in any of this in the last train leaving the station? Nothing for our border. Nothing requiring people to vote in federal elections to be American citizens. Nothing for Americans who are watching fentanyl come across the border. 300 Americans a week dying from that. Nothing to deal with our people being killed out on the highway by people here illegally, or the rapes and the murders that we hear about on a weekly basis now, the robbery, respect for America. Nothing to change any of that. But heaven forbid, all these other countries, they need America's money. And oh, by the way, Lou, you get this more than most. By next month, we'll be 35 trillion in debt because 34 is not enough. We got to be 35 trillion in debt by $100 or $1 trillion every 100 days. And that's just adding to that. So that's what we have on our plate today as Republicans in the House.
I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it for your conference. I'm going to hang my head right here, right now, in shame for the Republican conference. You've got a lily-livered coward for a leader. He's unprincipled. He is a phony. And you all are carrying him around in one of those a rickshaw of some sort. I mean, this is absurdity. This is it is just it's ineffable how stupid this moment is.
It's heartbreaking. Obviously, it's very disappointing. We heard about this yesterday morning. Of course, there was a mutiny in the conference. So then by yesterday mid-morning, we were all in the speaker's office. And those meetings went on until about midnight last night, where we offered the speaker an alternative to that. Remember, we already passed an Israel funding package last November that was paid for. And so we offered him a different solution set. Again, let's pay for some of these things. We want to help our ally in Israel. They're under assault. If we're going to provide lethal aid, not pensions aid, and not border security aid for Ukraine, but if we want to provide lethal aid, let's at least pay for it. So we offered some of that stuff last night, separate votes, not putting it all together to provide cover to everybody here. And, that's where we ended on midnight. And by this morning at, 8:30 or 9 o'clock, he's right back on the same train of when we showed up in town the thing that caused the mutiny. So we're trying to be productive, Lou. We are, those who are of us who are seen as the people that can never be satisfied. I don't know why paying for the things that you're handing out seems to be an unsatisfactory position in Washington. But unless you're borrowing the money from China, the people that are getting it or voting for it don't seem to want it. And we offered some solutions, and they're of course just discarded unceremoniously. And we're right back on the train of giving every single thing that Joe Biden and Chuck Schumer wants out of a House that that has a Republican majority. What do you say to that? I mean, I'm a Republican, but obviously I'll be voting against this. And what else can I do?
Well, that's an interesting question. The question is, what can you do? And right now, I'd have to say that you've got a lot of options in front of you. The reality is that you've got a fool for a speaker. You don't have control of the conference and the agenda of the United States House of Representatives, even though you have the speaker. The Republican Party is a joke right now, and led by a joke. So that gets to be alignment, at least, leadership and followers. But I have to say that I think every one of you ought to go out and campaign against every rhino in that Congress. And it isn't a complicated idea.
Well, you're right, Lou. The Civil War has begun. Those of us that are seen as the more conservative side, we didn't start it. I talked to the speaker about it in private. I talked to him in front of the conference about it. We gave him a couple more weeks. He said, look, if this is going to be a civil war, we didn't start it. We don't want to spend our time doing this. But if this is how it's going to be, we're not going to be the side that takes all the casualties. So you must know, we've decided we need better Republicans around here. And so many of us are actively playing, so to speak, in the primary process with some of our colleagues that we don't think are pulling their weight. Yeah.
Scott Perry, yep. I have to say, Congressman, you're one of the leaders of that conference and a very important voice. And for you to say that out loud in front of God and everybody, as the saying goes, is reason for hope. Because until the Republican Party produces more fighters like you and others, there are a significant number of others in the Congress that are standing up, America first, straight up, make America great again. And by the way, there is a Constitution, and let's follow it. When all else fails, read the instructions. They're right there. It's not complicated. And putting up with the pencil neck geeks over there on the Marxist dim side who are citing chapter and verse about DEI and their little broken hearts over wokeness, I think you've got a fighting chance. But first, as you're pointing out, you're going to have to fight, and thank you for doing so, Scott Perry. We appreciate it. Great American. Well, coming up next, Justice Thomas gave Biden's top prosecutors a cold reception and a few hot licks as well on a Tuesday. They don't like being asked hard questions. That just isn't done because they don't do honest answers. We'll unravel the complications here next. Stay with us. Welcome back, folks. The Supreme Court striking a very skeptical note on a law used to punish January 6 protesters and, yes, file charges against President Donald Trump. Federal prosecutors, those fine people in the corrupt Department of Justice, used this obstruction provision to charge hundreds of people who went to the U.S. Capitol on January 6. It's also the basis of 2 of the 4 charges brought by special counsel Jack Smith against President Trump. On Tuesday, Justice Clarence Thomas grilled a top Department of Justice attorney on whether the provision had been applied selectively just against Trump supporters. Listen to the DOJ attorney, his rambling, nonsensical answer.
There have been many violent protests that have interfered with proceedings. Has the government applied this provision to other protests in the past? And has this been the government's position throughout the lifespan of the statute?
It has certainly been the government's position since the enactment of 1512C2 that it covers the myriad forms of obstructing an official proceeding and that it's not limited to some kind of evidence impairment gloss.
Have you enforced it in that manner?
We have enforced it in a variety of prosecutions that don't focus on evidence tampering. Now, I can't give you an example of enforcing it in a situation where people have violently stormed a building in order to prevent an official proceeding, a specified one, from occurring with all of the elements like intent to obstruct, knowledge of the proceeding, having the corruptly mens rea, but that's just because I'm not aware of that circumstance ever happening prior to January 6th.
Well, the government's attorney seems to me very well caffeinated. I don't know about you. She also seemed to be utterly incapable of logical response. The Biden administration selectively applying the law against Trump supporters. That's the bottom line. She knew it. The Justice Department knows it. And Merrick Garland, the Attorney General, knows it. And yet she stood there in the Supreme Court of the United States and spewed that blather instead of answering honestly and forthrightly, as if it were antithetical to the nature of Marxist dim bureaucrats. Well, in New York, meanwhile, another example of the politicization of our justice system, it's well underway. And so far, we know that the president's jury consists of a black woman from Harlem who's a teacher. We know that President Trump's other juror will be an Asian man originally from Oregon. And he will also have a juror who called Donald Trump, quote, fascinating. People can't help but be enthralled by the man, in no small part because of his resilience in the face of witch hunts and personal assassination attempts like this one, launched by Joe Biden and the cretins like Soros-sponsored DA Alvin Bragg. Take a look at the reception Trump received in Harlem, where Bragg's office brought murder charges against a store clerk who had stabbed an attacker in self-defense in 2022. By the way, that store clerk had to spend time in Rikers Island awaiting for trial when they knew all they had to do was dismiss the case based on self-defense. Here's the president at a bodega in Harlem. He commends that moment because he truly likes those people on that street to support him. Well, in other news, a group of House Republicans are demanding that Biden secure the swift release of U.S. citizens held by Hamas. There are 5 Americans that we know of who are currently in the hands of terrorists. It is unclear how many, if any of them, remain alive. Republicans are also calling on Joe to stand with Israel as it struggles for its survival. Perhaps if he weren't so preoccupied with persecuting his leading opponent in the presidential race, he might have more time to tend to that. Joining us now is Congressman Aaron Bean, a Florida Republican who is up there on Biden's list of domestic enemies, being voted to impeach Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas, and he joins us now. And by the way, I should point out that you voted twice to impeach him. And so my first question has to be, for the first time in history, the U.S. Senate has tabled an impeachment measure. Aren't you proud of that, Senate?
That is just disgusting. How do you make a decision without knowing all the facts, to not even listen to why he is the most inept, corrupt secretary I think we've had in U.S. history, how the border is a disaster, and I'm just scared to death what's going to happen of all these people we let in that do not love America as much as you or I, Lou. By the way, it's great to be on your show. It's great to be with you.
Well, thank you. Great to have you here. Appreciate it. In terms of what are we going to do, President Trump, as I've been saying throughout this broadcast, President Trump is Churchill. 2024 is 1939. There is no other man, woman in this country who could lead this nation as will Donald Trump. And he has made it clear this will be the largest deportation in the history of America, because this is the largest invasion of America by illegal aliens in our country's history. What are your thoughts?
It is. Well, we're hoping that we get border security. First of all, they are doing this on purpose. It's absolutely doing this on purpose. In their twisted minds, they think this is going to replace the Democratic Party. They're all going to vote their way. We can't afford it. We're not vetting them. We're not knowing what diseases they're bringing in. Do they wish to do us harm? We have found more people on the terror watch list in the last year and a half than we've had in the last previous 5 years. We don't know, because the gotaways, the people that we don't even encounter, is also at an all-time high. But I just think it's going to be too late once we realize some of these people, including Chinese nationals, over 30,000 Chinese nationals, once they're here to do us harm, it'll be too late. But yes, the line to become a citizen should start in your own home country. These folks need to go home.
Yeah, and by the way, you ought to be invited, even if you're in your own home country. This right now is a country that is, we look like a third world country right now, and we're acting like a third world country, and we're acting like a third world dictatorship, because this is a president who is making all sorts of enunciations, executive actions, some executive orders, all without constitutional authority, and there is certainly no authority provided in any of the laws that have been passed by the U.S. Congress, including his 1.2 million person amnesty, on which he used the temporary asylum process. Congressman, at some point, does the I was going to ask you, does the Republican Party actually find itself united with firm conviction and principle, and together say this crap ends now? But then I realized, before I asked that question, we have just watched the Senate table the motion on Mayorkas's impeachment. It took 2 votes to get through that impeachment, and you've got a Speaker of the House that, my Lord, I have to say, I was embarrassed for President Trump. He is a man who is garrulous. He is a warm-hearted fella, and he likes people, and so he allowed Mike Johnson to go to Mar-a-Lago, and, if you will, take your pick. Either Johnson went to the woodshed, or Johnson kissed the ring, or any assemblage of such cliches. You have a speaker that is absolutely indecipherable. He is puny, he is weak, he is feeble, both minded and in character. What in the world are you all going to do?
Well, I would take exception. Speaker Johnson.
Well, you go ahead. You tell me which part. You tell me which part of him was exceptional.
Well, I just want to take exception. I would push back, Lou. I wouldn't agree with everything that he's inept. I would say he was.
I'd be glad to be edified. I'm happy to be edified. He was dealt a bad hand. He was dealt a bad hand. He's coming in to pick up the pieces. There was a mess. Our party has not been as unified as we would like. We are. He has to herd cats right now. I believe, I don't know if it's a 2 or 3 seat swing a majority. Lou, it's a couple.
We have members in the Republican parties that are not as we're not the same type of conservative Republican that you are or I am, but we need them. We need them. We've got over 18 members that won in heavy Biden districts, but for them, do we have the majority? Let me tell you what that majority. Without the majority, we would never know all the corruption.
I savvy majority, Congressman. I understand that. If you're going to explain something to me, if you're going to conjure something for me, let me ask you this: What has any of that got to do with putting through a $1.5 trillion spending bill, ramming it down the throats of the conference, going to the Democrat Party for the necessary votes to pass it, more Democrats than Republicans supporting it? What kind of craven, corrupt leader would do that to his conference, knowing full well what the American people sent them there to be? I know there's some smart people in that Congress. Because
I wouldn't use the word
they
corrupt.
know what you wouldn't use it. I'm
is
talking about it as politically corrupt. I don't know about the finances yet, but I'll tell you this: he's politically corrupt. He has broken his word to the conference. He broke his word to the American people. He has not produced the videos from January 6th as he promised. You remember that. I mean, the man has lied down the line. He's betrayed his conference and the principles of the party. What do you mean that they take exception to that? How could you argue with it? Those are facts.
I know. I just know that he's a man of honor and integrity. He loves his country. He loves his party.
Wait a minute, Congressman. I can't do this. You're telling me a man who lies to his conference, breaks his word, signs up with the other party, and is a man of what?
Am I disappointed where we are, Lou? Lou, am I disappointed where we are? I am. I'm disappointed. We have one power tool. It's the power of the purse. And you, like me, realize we're not using that tool to the fullest extent. But I'm not going to bash fellow Republicans. I'm not going to do that. You remember,
I'm the guy talking.
Reagan's 11th commandment. You remember him, so I'm not going to question him.
Do you remember Ronald Reagan? You would even say Ronald Reagan and Mike Johnson in the same paragraph? My Lord.
I'm just saying, we have to realize.
I know, Congressman, you're a nice guy. I get it. But I want to suggest something to you. You're disappointed. I wouldn't get all worked up about being disappointed. If I were in your shoes, and I'm going to say this as loud and clear as I can, unsolicited, I realize. But it's time for your conference to get over its disappointments and get damn mad and start fighting for the American people and the people you represent. I don't care if you guys puke with fear and disappointment and your overwrought sensitivity. Leave that to the Marxist Dems. This is bull what we're putting up with in the House of Representatives. This is awful. I mean, it's awful. And if we have congressmen who can't even say it's awful, because they don't want to hurt somebody's feelings and they have some sort of
Lou Dobbs, I will say it's awful. I will say it's awful. I will say we've not used all the tools at our disposal to make things happen. But to trash fellow, I'm just not going to do that. I think we have to learn to play together.
He's trashed
I agree. It's our moment.
He's trashed you, and so has the Democratic Party.
We all need to do what we can to secure this border, and that's what we're working on right now. We shouldn't be worried about other countries' borders when we already are working on our own border too, Lou Dobbs.
Yeah, I would certainly hope so. And our thanks to Congressman Aaron Bean. Good sport, good humor, and we're going to have him back soon. It's just incredible to me to think that the U.S. Senate, for the first time in American history, has just tabled an impeachment procedure. It's just incredible to think what we're witnessing. I was very serious when I said to Congressman Bean that I mean, this is not a time to be disappointed or to be found wanting in terms of your frustrations. This is the time to raise hell. This is not a time to sit there on your hands and put up with it. This country has had, if we have been anything when it comes to tolerance, we have been excessively tolerant of those who insult this nation and who, frankly, demean this nation, its heritage, our Constitution, and our way of life. And it's time for that to end. We thank you for being with us. We appreciate it. And coming up here next is Mike Lindell. The Lindell Show will come up in just seconds here. But first, I want to say thank you for being with us. Thank you for being in the arena. And we appreciate you. God bless you. And good night.